All right, let's talk about this new Hawkeye series that's on Disney Plus, thanks to Marvel. And I've watched the first 3 episodes. That's all that has aired so far as I'm recording this right now. The first 2 episodes were a little bit of a slow burn. They were setting up Kate Bishop and getting a little bit of her backstory. We get this crazy flashback sequence that takes us back to 2012 when the Avengers are fighting the Chitauri and New York City is all gone to hell. And Kate Bishop is caught in the middle of this battle, and out of this broken wall in her building where she lives, she sees Hawkeye jumping off of a building, shooting aliens with his bow and arrow and being such a badass. And it's this epiphanous moment for Kate, and she recognizes what a hero truly is, but she also loses her father. And there's a sense of drama and trauma as well with this character right from the beginning. And she recognizes that she has got to become a protector. And she says in the first episodes that she wants to protect her mom, which was pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Vera Farmiga, who plays Kate Bishop's mom. She does a great job in this. But then we track forward and we see Hailee Steinfeld take on the role of Kate Bishop. And she's at school and she's doing some stuff that upsets everybody. And she's kind of trying to find her way. But she's won all of these medals, and she's just a superstar in martial arts and in archery, clearly. And she's got this massive affection and appreciation for the Hawkeye as a character and as a do-gooder in the world. And through a crazy twist of fate, their fortunes are intertwined because Hawkeye has come to New York City with his family, has taken in an Avengers musical, which I hear they're going to release as a separate standalone thing. And all of the safe bets are out there that this is actually going to be a thing on Broadway. There will be some kind of Avengers musical. I don't know if it's going to be called Rogers the Musical, but we're probably not too far away from that. The Marvel taking over the universe continues. And I get that people are a little exhausted with these Marvel shows and these Disney Plus shows around Marvel characters for sure, because we've got a lot of good ones this year. But the quality has been so freaking fantastic.
This is gonna be a gas!
It is a slow burn, those first 2 episodes, and I was honestly thinking, okay, well maybe this is gonna be a little bit different. The thing that I like about the show, though, is that it feels like a private detective story out of the 30s or something like that, and we got this old grizzled gumshoe in the face of Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, who's seen it all, been through everything. He's hard of hearing, a lack of patience for pretty much the world and for anybody. He actually has second thoughts about the Thanos was right graffiti that he keeps seeing in different places. I like his dour, seen it all, been through it all kind of expressions on his face, juxtaposed against this optimism and this ambition and this appreciation for the world and her potential in Kate Bishop, played by Hailee Steinfeld. And so there's a great back and forth there, but it takes a little while to kind of gel and jive and kind of get a sense of where the show is going to go. And then we jettison into the 3rd episode, where our heroes have been captured by the tracksuit gang, and they have to escape from said capture in a truly, Marvel cinematic way. Like, it's full-on Avengers moment there, where we've got Jeremy Renner leaping off of things and, shooting sideways, and there's trick arrows flying everywhere, and an incredible car chase sequence where the camera is rotating around the vehicle, and the interplay and the back and forth, particularly because Hawkeye is playing everything without a hearing aid in, so he can't even hear what Kate Bishop is saying to him. And the back and forth and the repartee combined with this over-the-top action and the humor, it's wonderful. It's really fantastic. The 3rd episode is some of the best that Marvel has been on Disney Plus so far. I freaking loved it. But I don't think it would work so well without the sort of mounting levels and layers that have been a part of the first couple of episodes, including the introduction of Echo, who is this deaf badass that has seen her father go through some really heavy stuff. And she's got a hate-on for Ronan, and she's wondering what Clint Barton and Kate Bishop have to do with Ronan. And she's commanding the tracksuit gang and trying to get to the bottom of things. And she's fierce and totally capable. And I'm really digging the show that balances the frailties and some of the physical and psychological limitations of these characters against their abilities, and showing that there's innate power in all of us, but particularly in these specific characters that are profiled in the show. And then we're getting these threads, man, because the next 3 episodes should be bangers. We're going to be understanding who Kate's mother's fiance is. He's good with swords, and he's got Ronan's sword, so she'll it'll be interesting to see what happens with that character, but there's also an allusion, a thread about Echo's uncle, who may or may not be Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. And we don't know yet, so it's all kind of speculation. There's a lot of rumor stuff and speculation stuff on YouTube right now and all over Twitter, but I think chances are pretty good. I think Marvel's got something pretty fantastic up their sleeves with this. I'm all in, though. I'm loving this show, and I didn't want to just make this episode just about my thoughts on things, because it's not really a full review. We haven't got the whole season yet, but I am really loving it, and that third episode just took it to another level. I also wanted to dig into a little bit of the behind the scenes on this show as well. I had the chance to speak with Trinh Tran, who is the executive producer on Hawkeye, but has been a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for, I think, since the very beginning, and has worked on multiple projects and has seen it all. And also with Rhys Thomas, who is the director of a few episodes of the show, but also an executive producer on the show as well. And so let's go a little bit behind the scenes. But first, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor and our friends at the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments happening every single week, and you can find out all about them at tgs.gg. All right, let's hear from Trinh Tran. Congratulations, Trinh. It is a wonderful show. I've really enjoyed the first couple of episodes.
Thank you so much. How's it going?
It's going great. Now, I'm curious because Matt Fraction's fantastic run on the Hawkeye comic series happened as the MCU was really exploding. And I'm curious if that's, if Marvel Comics works with your team to kind of figure out what would make a cool cinematic approach, or when that came out, did you guys look at that and say, this is going to be a movie at some point?
I remember, as we were talking about, well, when is it time to make the Clint Barton story, right? And it was a good few years back. And we already have sort of an established version of Clint Barton in the Avengers movie. But how do we also bring in Kate Bishop, who I absolutely love? And I remember when I first picked up that run, I couldn't stop because it was so good. And what was really fun about it was the Clint and Kate dynamic. And we already have an Avenger, so it was just almost like the perfect way in for Kate. And it was a matter of time to be able to tell both of their story. And our focus was really using the comic run as an inspiration to make sure that dynamic works in a way that was best fit for the MCU going forward.
Were you guys always thinking of a Hawkeye solo thing, or did Disney Plus have to kind of spur that kind of thinking?
We were talking about a Clint Barton Hawkeye story before Disney Plus. It just so happens that as we were starting to develop that story, it was originally a feature. Disney Plus launched, and there was so much great history in the comics that we wanted to pull into the story. And we just thought that this was one of the characters and properties that made sense. Given that Kate Bishop was going to enter the world, that meant that I would have 6 hours worth of story telling to be able to talk about Clint, to be able to introduce Kate, as well as spend the time that we need in order for them to bond.
That's great. Congratulations on Hailee Steinfeld as Kate. She's terrific. Talk to me about that negotiation with her. Was she, clued into the MCU? Did she want to be a part of it right from the beginning?
She is so incredibly talented, and it was finding the right role, right? I know when we were starting to talk about the cast for Kate, names were thrown in left and right, but no one really stuck out the way Hailee did. And it was, I remember the first time she walked in to meet with us, it was, years of envisioning who Kate is, and Hailee just exude all of those, traits that we loved about Kate Bishop. And she's so talented from all of the work that she has done, that we just knew that she had to be the one. This
has been a pretty auspicious, opening salvo of shows on Disney Plus from you guys. How are you feeling at the end of year one? And what have you been learning about making shows for Disney Plus that might be different from making the films for the MCU?
Well, our process at Marvel has always been a particular way. And we were, when we first started off making the series, we were treating it as if they were our features. It was just longer content, but a long movie, I guess you can say. The process in the creative aspect has always been similar that way. I think one of the biggest difference is the 6 hours worth of content in the same amount of the time and space that we normally have for feature has been one of the I guess eye opener on my end, because that meant that we had to pick up our pace and be a lot faster in order to get 3 times amount of the content in. So everything felt, shorter in terms of filming, post-production to create the series.
Well, you're killing it, and you're entertaining millions of us. Thank you so much, Trinh. Great to meet you, and continued success to your team.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, it's also pretty cool to hear from Jeremy Renner and from Hailee Steinfeld as well, some of their thoughts on playing these iconic characters.
It's kind of a big part of, I think we'll learn in this series what Hawkeye's superpowers really are. And it's his heart and his tenacity, and it comes from family, and this celebrates that relatability of his character, and I love it, man. Can't wait.
It is such an honor. Even that feels like an understatement, but I am so incredibly grateful. I feel so lucky to have everyone at Marvel believe in me, at least enough to play the role of Kate Bishop, and that means a great deal to me.
You showed me that you don't need superpowers to be a hero.
I broke my tailbone doing that.
It was great. The fans sort of make this happen, right? So it's nice to be able to express it in a 6-hour show. I thought that was the most interesting part of it when Kevin brought it up to me. Instead of it limited to a 2-hour movie, a lot more story to tell, a lot more character development really to express, which I think was needed and welcome. Got to introduce a lot of new characters. Super excited about it, and also because it's also set in a world that's really kind of appropriate for a superhero with no superpowers. It's New York at Christmas, and turns into a really pretty wonderful holiday kind of event, kind of television because of it.
There is so much in this show that I feel people will find relatable, and one being that it takes place during the holidays, and although that is the in some people's opinions, mine included, the best time and the most joyful, it can also be complicated, and there's a lot that comes with, there's a lot of weight and a lot of depth that comes with, family, and this kind of explores all layers of that, and it's one epic adventure, and like I said, it has a lot of layers, and there's something in there for everyone.
And I also had a chance to catch up with Rhys Thomas, who is an executive producer on Hawkeye and has directed episodes. Let's hear from him right now. Congratulations, sir. I've watched the first couple of episodes, and it's awesome. It's really, really cool to dive into this world.
Well, that's nice to hear. Thank you.
Was this something that you came to Marvel with the idea on, or how did it come together? How did you start working with the MCU peeps?
No, I went in and met with Marvel generally, and heard about sort of the Disney Plus sort of plan, and they asked me if there was a character that that I was particularly interested in, and Hawkeye was my answer, because I've just enjoyed his arc in the MCU, but also the Fraction run of comics, the sort of a kind of slightly absurd lens that was applied to him felt like such a compelling approach to the human or slash fifth Beatle of the Avengers. It felt like a cool thing to do. So it kind of grew kind of organically from there, but no, there was some outlines that has been written, and I kind of badgered and pestered and got them and started giving notes and ideas whether they wanted them or not, and just kind of wormed my way into a place of influence.
Oh, that's terrific. Hawkeye is a character that doesn't have superpowers, so he has to kind of be one step ahead and sort of predict, even with his shots he has to. So how do you kind of, make sure that he's surprised and in the moment, and what surprises him with these kind of street thugs and stuff that he's got to contend with in this new show?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's kind of about planning, and I think that comes a little bit from his experience. He's lived in this very high stakes world, and I think maybe dealt with. It's almost like he's probably come to deal with such a high caliber of villain up to now. So part of the surprise, I think, is that he's dealing with these low level street thugs whose intent is who knows what, and their plan is who knows what. And so I think there's an element of that, because that's the fun, I think, is taking high stakes Clint Barton, the guy that fought Thanos, and having just to deal with day-to-day folk.
That's awesome. What has been the most surprising thing for you working with Jeremy Renner and Hailee Steinfeld?
I mean, again, I wouldn't say surprising because they're both such wonderful actors, but you know, again, there's always that moment, you know, again, you spend a long time writing something and prepping it and you know, working with the costume designers, but you know, like you conceive of everything, you know, in a sort of long build up, and you have this version in your head of what that's going to be, and you know, and those early moments, I think, whenever you step onto set and you're suddenly with actors, you know, it can be quite scary because suddenly you're confronted with reality instead of this ideal version. But with both Jeremy and Hailee, I kind of saw characters, you know, evolve, I think, another step beyond what you know, we'd been planning. You know, sort of Kate's voice suddenly took shape, and you know, something that I'd fretted over trying to define on the page, you know, she suddenly like made it work where I couldn't make it work before. And then Jeremy, you've just got this guy that's lived for 10 years in this universe, and he brings that, he walks in the door with that. It's not, you know, and knows it. And so you sort of realize like, oh, I've got so much more than just an actor here. I actually got Clint Barton, and you know, and because he feels like this journey. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's the thrill of this.
That's awesome. Rhys, great to meet you. Congrats again. I can't wait to finish up the series.
Thank you. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Okay, you guys, I gotta say, this first year of Marvel shows on Disney Plus has entertained me immensely. I'm looking forward to seeing where Hawkeye goes from here, and also what Marvel has up its sleeve for future Disney Plus shows. Let me know what you think of the shows in the comments below, and thank you all very much for watching this. I hope you've been having fun with these Disney Plus shows over the year as well, as much as I have. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to this as an audio podcast, don't forget to subscribe and to review and rate the podcast. It helps a ton. And thank you so much for all of your support. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.